This is Dollar Logic, where we break down the hidden logic behind money, business, and the systems that shape your everyday life. No jargon, no fluff, just clear answers. Credit cards are marketed with cash back, points, and travel rewards. It sounds like a remarkably generous deal coming from a bank. So how exactly do credit card companies make enough money to hand out all those rewards and still turn a healthy profit every year? Today we're breaking down exactly how credit card issuers make their money, and why for a lot of cardholders, that profit comes directly out of their own pocket. The single biggest source of revenue for most card issuers is interest. If you carry a balance from month to month instead of paying it off in full, the issuer charges interest on whatever you still owe, and credit card interest rates are notably high compared to almost any other type of consumer debt. As of 2026, the average interest rate on accounts that carry a balance sits above 21%, with plenty of cards charging well into the high 20s. Carry even a moderate balance long enough, and the interest charges can end up costing far more than whatever you originally purchased in the first place. This is exactly why most cards offer what's called a grace period. If you pay your full statement balance by the due date, you typically avoid interest entirely on that month's purchases. Miss that window even once, and interest can start accruing immediately. The second major revenue source doesn't come from you directly, it comes from merchants. Every single time you swipe, tap, or enter your card online, the business accepting that payment pays what's called an interchange fee, typically somewhere between 1.5% and 3.5% of the transaction amount. That fee gets split between the card network like Visa or MasterCard and your card's issuing bank. This fee is baked directly into the price of goods everywhere, which is part of why some businesses charge a small surcharge or offer a discount, specifically for customers who pay with cash instead of card. Then there are fees charged directly to cardholders. Annual fees, late payment fees, cash advance fees, balance transfer fees, and foreign transaction fees. Not every card charges all of these, but among cards that do carry an annual fee, the average sits north of $230 a year. Miss a single payment, and a late fee gets added almost immediately, often stacked directly on top of the interest that was already accruing. Cash advances are particularly expensive. Withdrawing cash on a credit card typically comes with its own upfront fee and starts accruing interest immediately, with no grace period at all. So how do generous rewards programs fit into all of this? Card issuers can afford cash back and points because interest charges and interchange fees generate more than enough revenue to fund those rewards and still turn a healthy profit on top. In many cases, cardholders who pay their full statement balance every single month cost issuers almost nothing in interest. But those same cardholders' everyday spending still generates interchange revenue from merchants every time they use the card. That means even so-called no-interest cardholders remain genuinely profitable to the bank, just through a different channel. Co-branded cards, the kind tied to a specific airline or retailer, add yet another layer since issuers often pay that partner company for every new cardholder they bring in, a cost ultimately built into how those rewards programs are structured. There's also a less obvious side effect worth knowing about. Because merchants pay interchange fees on every card transaction, those costs get built into the prices businesses charge everyone, including customers who pay in cash and never use a rewards card at all. In effect, cash-paying customers end up subsidizing the rewards earned by credit card users, since prices are typically set the same for everyone regardless of payment method. The real risk zone for cardholders is carrying a balance and making only the minimum payment. Minimum payments are calculated to be just enough to keep an account in good standing, which means the majority of that payment goes toward interest rather than actually reducing what you owe. This can quietly turn a relatively small, manageable balance into a slow-growing debt that takes years to fully pay off, even if you never make another purchase on that card again. Total U.S. credit card debt has climbed to well over $1 trillion in recent years, a figure that reflects exactly how widespread carrying a balance has become. It's also worth knowing that how much of your available credit you're using, called your credit utilization, directly affects your credit score, which ties this topic straight back to everything we covered in our credit score video. Keeping your utilization low, even if you're not carrying a costly balance, is one of the simplest ways to protect your score over time. For anyone just starting to build credit, secured credit cards are worth knowing about too. These require a refundable deposit that typically becomes your credit limit, which makes them accessible even without an existing credit history. And they report to the credit bureaus just like a standard card, making them a common, lower-risk entry point for building credit from scratch. None of this means credit cards are inherently bad. Used responsibly, they can build your credit history over time, offer real purchase protections, and provide genuine value through rewards, all without costing you anything extra, as long as you understand exactly how the system works. The distinction that actually matters is simple. Pay your full statement balance every single month, and you sidestep nearly every way card companies profit directly off you personally while still enjoying the benefits. Know your card's APR, understand exactly when interest starts accruing after a purchase, and treat your credit limit as a tool for building credit and earning rewards, never as extra income to spend. That single habit is really what determines whether a credit card ends up working for you or quietly working against you. That's how it actually works. Understanding money doesn't have to be complicated, it just has to be explained clearly. If this helped, subscribe to Dollar Logic for more videos that make sense of the systems around your money. See you in the next one.